Hey, Josh here with Project Car Media and welcome. If you haven't seen the precursor video to this YouTube video, head over to my Facebook page and check out that video for some more context. But for now, we're going to hop right in and check out these cars. And so we're going to start basically with the BMW 1M. There's actually a website called 1M Coupe Buyer's Guide that shows you every single ad in the entire country at any given time. So I stumbled upon this. It has a lot of good information on this website as well if you're trying to buy one. I love all the colors for these. If you don't know, the 1Ms came in only 3 colors. They were only made for 1 year, and the colors were the Valencia orange, the black, and the white. So if you see a 1M that's not a orange, white, or black, then it probably has been wrapped or repainted, kind of like this one right here. It's gray. All the other ones are orange, black, or white. I did own a 2012 128 6-speed, and I really liked it a lot. And it didn't have a sunroof, so I had room for my helmet and everything. And even though I'm a big guy, I'm 6'5", I was able to fit into 1 Series really well, and I thought it handled really well for what it was at the time. So a 1M is just like a unicorn, man. It's like they only made so many. They only made them for 1 year. They have all the best parts in a smaller car. The whole rear suspension is from the E92 M3. The engine is from the 135, and then they even added a little bit of power to that. It's got huge brakes. It does amazing at the track. It drifts amazingly, has lots of power, and they're just a great car. The reason I was leaning towards that was for all those same reasons. I mean, the thing weighs as much as my old BMW does. Handles great. It tracks great. It drifts great, and you can drive it to the store, to work, or whatever. It has all of the features as a new car has. So, like, for example, I found this one. This one's actually here in Portland, Oregon. So I'm in the Pacific Northwest, if you don't already know. This one's at a place called Grand Prix Motors in Portland, Oregon. And it's only got 41,000 miles on it, and they want $59,900. That's a little bit high from what I've seen. But if you look at the pictures of this, I mean, these things are extremely aggressive looking. I just think they just look amazing. They only made so many of them. It still has hydraulic steering. It still has a regular LSD. It still has a 6-speed. There's no sunroof or anything like that. This one doesn't have the iDrive or anything. It doesn't have the comfort access, so it's even lighter. It's a very, very cool car. I'm a big BMW fan, so this car really hits home with me. So the pros of it are all those things. The cons that I found with this car is that it's exactly what it is. It's a unicorn car. It's something that is a collector's item. This is something that you put in your garage and you take out on nice days and stuff like that. You don't see too many of these on the track, autocrossing or drifting, even though some people do. I have seen them out there, but it's like, if you get something like this, it's super nice. Do you really want to beat on it and stuff like that? Like, I would, just because that's how I am. The car is meant to be driven. But at the same time, you're like, well, it's a collector's car. It's held the same exact value for almost 10 years now, and they're only just going to go up in value. So that's something definitely I wanted to think about with the BMW 1M. So next up on the list was the GT350. Now this is completely on the other spectrum of things, just because it's such a big car compared to the 1M, and it's a V8 and naturally aspirated instead of a twin turbo straight six. It only weighs about 700 pounds more than a 1M. It's not that much bigger. Carfax seemed to be the best place to find GT350s all over the country, but I've only been looking at 19s and 20s, and that's because I did a bunch of research on these as well, and like sometimes there was some engine and oil starvation issues in the 16s, 17s, and 18s, and then in 2019 they did a whole second generation engine that had a bunch of improvements over the previous ones, and I even shared some parts with the GT500 engine. So I was okay. Well, want to look at either a 19 or a 20. So for example, we'll check this one out right here. I'm a big fan of no racing stripes. Like, if I was to choose a GT350, it would need to be one that does not have racing stripes. If I was to get one with racing stripes, it would have to be the white with the blue, just for Shelby purposes. But if I can help it, I'd like to get one that does not have racing stripes. just because I think it just looks a little bit better. Plus, the racing stripes on these are vinyl, so they could come off over time. So here's one. It's a 19. It's within my price range. It's in Texas, so it's kind of a long ways away, but it's got no racing stripes, and these do come with a standard Recaro seat, and these are not the standard Recaros. They look pretty comfortable still, but I kind of was leaning towards the Recaros. These cars are just awesome. They have all the features of a new car. They got the forward sync, they've got air conditioning, all that stuff. I was not actually looking to get a GT350R, just because those are a little bit too racy for the street for me, because I still want to drive this on the street and take it to work and stuff like that, not only race it. So I decided that I was going to stick, if I was going to look at these, I was going to stick to the regular GT350. So yeah, I mean, these are really, really cool cars. I mean, it's a naturally aspirated 5.2 liter V8 that revs out at 8,200 RPMs. And if you know about any V8s that rev out at 8,200 RPMs, it's like, the S65 V8 that comes in the E92 M3s. And if you ever heard that thing at 8,200 RPMs, it sounds awesome. And so this car does too. It has an amazing exhaust from the factory, and they sound really good. And they're a track-oriented car. It's not a regular Mustang GT. These GT350s have chassis tuning. They've got bigger brakes. They've got the engine. They have a whole different transmission. So this is definitely an option that I was looking at. It might not do as good at autocross as a BMW 1M, but it's definitely on the list just because I'm leaning more towards track days these days, and this car would definitely be able to stretch its legs on the track. So GT350 is definitely on the list. And I really, really love the Shelby GT350 backstory. This is before Ford versus Ferrari came out. I went to the Shelby Museum in Vegas, and I loved what they did back in the 60s. The GT350 was it was basically a race car from the Ford Mustang, and the fact that they came back and 50 years later and did it again, I think they really hit the nail on the head with this. It's not, I mean, I don't even like to call it a Mustang because it doesn't, to me, it doesn't seem like one. It's like it's just wearing Mustang clothing. So anyway, that's definitely on the list. Next up, I was looking at was NSXs. Now, these have like a very special place in my heart. I have always loved NSXs. I mean, ever since I started driving when I was 15 years old, I've always loved them. I loved what they represented. They were a Honda that could compete with Ferrari, and they're mid-engine, rear-wheel drive. I just loved them, and they're like this is a timeless design. It'll always look cool. So these come with a 3-liter V6, 270 horsepower. At least this one does. It's a pre-95. I have driven one of these before. On my 30th birthday, I was able to drive. A gentleman had a 91 that lived locally in my area, and my wife basically arranged for me to drive it on my birthday, and so I was able to actually drive one of these NSXs. It was like a dream come true. The problem was that I'm 6'5", and these cars are very small inside. They're meant for, if you have long legs and a short torso, then you can fit in these no problem all day. If you have a long torso and normal legs like me, that just doesn't work. So I was pretty scrunched in there, but I was able to drive it. I definitely would not be able to fit into pre-95 with a helmet unless I had an aftermarket seat. So the 95 and ups were all T-tops, which is great if it's not raining. So there's definitely some pros here. This is like probably one of my original dream cars. I love it. It's reliable. It's a Honda. But if I was to get one, I would have to replace the seat with, like a Bride Lomax or something that basically sits on the floor. And I probably wouldn't be able to test drive it, to be honest. I'd probably have to kind of take the seller's word for it if I was to pick one up. But they're within my price range. They're definitely very, very, very cool cars. Love NSXs. And last but not least is the Cadillac CTS-V. Now, if you're thinking about it, like you're probably thinking, well, this is like way cheaper than a GT350 or a 1M. You know, why a Cadillac CTS-V? Well, the reason is because I used to own a 2010 Cadillac CTS-V sedan, and I absolutely loved it. It was such an amazing car. Here's a picture of it. This is back in 2014 when I had it. I had it plasti dipped, the grill, the body, the wheels. I had it all plasti dipped because it was black underneath, and I wanted to protect that color. And it was a 6-speed manual, and it had the Recaro seats, and it was an amazing car. I loved it, but I had to get rid of it in order to buy a house. And so I've always missed that car, and I've always thought, well, you know, if I was to get back into, you know, a dream car, it could possibly be a CTSV. You know, it would be a little bit cheaper than the other options. I already know mostly about the car. I know how it handles, everything like that. But, you know, I've already had one, and you know, we'll see. It's kind of like if you can find like a really good deal, like if I can save a lot of money and get something. I mean, technically, this model CTSV has a supercharged V8, 6.2 liter, I think, and it pushes out 556 horsepower and 556 torque, and it can technically beat a 2019 GT350 in a quarter mile. You know, so it's faster than a GT350. You know, it's a little bit heavier. I think they weigh about 4,200 pounds, so it's a little bit heavier. Probably wouldn't do as good in autocross and on the track. I did autocross my old one time, and it surprisingly was very nimble for how big it was. But this would do really good on the track as well, and it would do really good drifting too. But you know, it's like it's not. It's kind of a dream car for me, but kind of not because I've already owned one, and you know, it just doesn't have the. I mean, well, if you get a manual four door, that's way more rare than anything else. So that's definitely on my list. And if I can find a good deal on one, then like that's probably the best route to go. So here's some pictures I found, some just high res pictures I found of. This is a 95 NSX with the T-tops. Here's a GT350. You know, I mean, God, these cars look amazing. You know, the NSXs look amazing. The 1Ms look amazing. You know, all these cars are just awesome. The CTSV looks amazing. So, you know, I've narrowed it down to these cars. Now, I know that there's going to be a lot of you that are like, you know, why not, you know, a Supra or an FD RX-7 or, you know, a R32 Skyline or an R34 Skyline. For me, one of the other things I wanted to do was keep the car kind of newer. I know the NSX is not a newer car, but it is a Honda, and like they're a little bit more reliable, so I'm okay with buying an older NSX. You know, buying an older Supra or buying an older FDRX7. Well, I can't actually fit in an FDRX7 with a helmet, so it doesn't really matter. But I probably couldn't with the Supra either. But I wanted something kind of newer, you know, that had some features and stuff like that. So that's why the GT350, that's why the 1M, that's why the CTSV, and then the NSX is kind of like, it doesn't matter if it's old because it's still timeless. You know, it's still my dream car. So that's pretty much all I had for you this episode. I apologize there's not more action or anything like that. But in 2 weeks, I will reveal which one of these 4 cars I do end up getting. And I'll definitely show you guys and let you guys know. And I think, I don't know, I'm leaning a couple different ways. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. But please stay tuned. If you haven't already, please go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel, and that way you can get a notification when my new videos come out. The next video will definitely show you what I get. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.